he wrote, in his book, The Righteous Mind, psychologist Jonathan Haidt does a convincing job of demonstrating that every one of us, however much we might protest to the contrary, is fundamentally an irrational being. Much of what we believe to be objective, rational thought, based on an examination of evidence and an assessment of verifiable facts, is in reality the result of our conscious minds fabricating ex post facto justifications for what our intuition has already decided to do. But, skipping down a little bit, but to continue sort of in the theme, our old animal minds are still making the running. The role of our conscious reasoning brain is to provide the arguments to justify where it chooses to go. Haidt writes, we all need to take a cold, hard look at the evidence and see reasoning for what it is. It evolved not to help us find truth, but to help us engage in arguments, persuasion, and manipulation in the context of discussions with other people. I thought that was an interesting quote that he chose to share because it kind of makes me think about how much of the conversation, so to speak, in our modern world is due to media technology, and it wants to emphasize rational and arguing the facts. And I did my research, even if it's just YouTube videos, and trying to manipulate each other or the masses. It's like a larger sign pointing at the growing disconnect from intuition and from deeper knowing, or a fear of sort of the untethering of the ego. I think that kind of is in parallel with his point of how we're, consequently becoming more disconnected from nature and so forth. So, yeah.
And you have to hope that those YouTube videos have done their research.
Right, yeah. And that there's something that traces back to something that wasn't AI.
You want to do your research, even on YouTube.
But I think that whole thing is kind of like, people talk about gut feelings or instinct, and he's kind of trying to dig into that idea that we do have, we are animals, we do still have an innate primitive sense. If you want to call it intuition or whatever, sort of another way of going about the point that there's something more to existence than just the literal of what we can choose to manipulate for our benefit.